Neely, difficult time getting protein requirements being vegetarian. Neely, I'm so glad you asked this question because a question came in a while back about vegetarian and veganism, and I did a poor job of answering it because there's actually a very simple way to increase your protein intake if you cannot eat any animal products. So let me be very clear here. There's a huge difference between being a vegan and a vegetarian, as nearly everyone knows. Vegan means no animal products at all. Vegetarian means no meat. So not being able to eat meat is in no way, shape, or form a problem, or I would argue even a challenge when it comes to sanity, because the most sane, nutrient-dense sources of protein in the world are not meats, or they're not meats that most people eat. Like liver is an optimal source of nutrient-dense protein, as are other organ meats, but most people don't eat those. Whereas seafood, fish, salmon, clams, oysters, basically any fish, super optimal source of nutrient-dense protein. So if you eat fish, if you're a pescatarian, you're good to go, done. Now, if you are really like, and then you've also got Greek yogurt, you've got all natural Greek yogurt, you've got cottage cheese, great sources of, you've got egg whites mixed with whole eggs, because that's not meat if you're a vegetarian. So yeah, if you're a vegetarian, I mean, whey protein, I mean, it's all there. The same meal bars, good for you. If you're a vegan, then it becomes harder, because then everything I just mentioned, that goes off the table because those are all animal products. So then you say, what's your answer now there, Mr. Smarty Pants? So if you're a vegan, it is harder. I'm not gonna, let's just call it what it is to get enough protein. My recommendation, and you can find these in the SANE store if it's helpful, is pea protein, hemp protein, or rice protein, potentially in that order. My preference is pea. Pea has a great amino acid profile for a plant. So pea protein, clean pea protein, right? I recommend the clean pea protein available in the SANE store, not because I own the company, but because it's very hard to find pea protein where you look at the ingredients and it's just like pea protein from, pure Belgian wonderful peas. Same thing with rice or hemp protein. Those are great ways to augment your protein intake if animal foods are completely off the table. So thank you, Kitty, for the kind words here. And Neely, hopefully that helps a bit. If it doesn't, boom, chat it up. Let me know. Let me jump over here to the written in questions. And this is a really long one. So this individual is 73 years young, which is awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And body is full of inflammation, severe arthritis from a head-on collision in their 20s, degenerative bone disease in both ankles, insulin-dependent diabetes, type 2 asthma. This individual is going through a very, very hard time. They also care for their husband, who is 53 years old, who is struggling. Essentially, this individual is going through a really, really hard time. Yeah, so I'm sorry, guys, for getting like a little quiet here, but this individual is there. I guess there's sort of less of a question here and more of just a general cry for help. And I want to say thank you for the trust. And, I hope you're here, and I hope you're in the chat, and I hope you're seeing the love that this community and that the members of this community have to offer you. What I would recommend right now is like copy and paste what you wrote here, and please put this in the SANE support group, right? That's why it's there. Start your SANE journal, put this in the SANE support group, and take advantage of the amazing people and resources that are here in this community, right? You are not going to find a more like sound science and love and care together in one place than you're going to find in the SANE support group, and you're going to find in the SANE family in general. So please let us help you there. So again, and anyone, if you haven't already started your SANE journal, please do that, right? Like we see these ads in magazines like, this magic pill will make you lose more weight and la da 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 da. It won't, or if it does, it will cause horrible side effects. But like, two things right now: writing down where you're starting from, where you want to go, and spending 5 minutes per day just updating your SANE journal. So you just go sign into your Ignite program, click on coaching, start new discussion, something, and then title it My Journal, put it in category journal, tell us your story and update it. Make that it's like making a public commitment. It's a fact that the more people you involve in any lifestyle change, the more success you will have. So, we see these ads on television that are like, or in magazines, lose 17% more weight. It's only $8,000. And a lot of people throw money at that, or they watch television and there's this new like raspberry ketones, throw money at that. Look, that ain't going to do it. And there is proven rigorous science over decades that says two things. One, the more people you involve in a lifestyle change, the more supportive people, and that's why we've got the SANE support group, the more successful you will be. So if it's like, I don't want to post this, you will be X% more successful if you actively engage others. So please do that. The other thing is having like a buddy do it with you. So like, reach out in the SANE support group, reach out in your community, reach out in your church, share, teach other people what you're learning, right? Make the commitment, not so much to be like, I have to learn this for me, but imagine that you are going to teach this to the people you live with, right? I know for a lot of us, and I see this a lot in parents, especially, is it's much more difficult for them to do something for themselves than it is for them to do something for their family, right? So like, I mean, my parents are a great example of this. They, in about as middle class as you get. And, if they had a medical issue, it was like, put some Robitussin on it. Like, anything happened to us, blank check, right? It's my child. I will do anything to take care of them. Macro point is sometimes it's hard for us to do something for ourselves, but it's much easier for us to be motivated to do that for someone else, right? So use that with your SANE lifestyle. Don't, if you have to, this isn't for you. You're not learning this. You're not completing one step in your step-by-step program per day for you. You're doing it because it's going to be your dinner conversation, because you're going to share it with other people and you're going to help them and you're going to make their lives better, right? So jump in the support group and help others in the support group and in your own life. I think it's going to be really, really, really helpful, especially based on the challenges you're facing. So, and thank you for being here. I mean, that's amazing what you're going through. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Lots of good stuff coming in. I'm trying to keep up with it. I'm so sorry. All right. Nancy's got a good question here. She says, I read the article linked to in the FAQ about prognosis for changes post-menopause women. As a 65-year-old, I was disheartened to read fruit as a garnish, except minimal weight loss unless you're very strict. Can you comment on the progress expected for the over 65 group? Nancy, I'm terribly sorry if that article, I think you're referring to an article written by Dr. Kathy Patel, who's an amazing member of the SANE community. And I'm terribly sorry if that came off as like negative. What we're more trying to communicate is that we have to give ourselves permission to celebrate who we are in the position we are individually and not others. Here's why I'm saying this. Like, the quickest way to, like, if you ever see something which is like, everyone who does this will lose 7 pounds in 7 days, right? Even you recall from your SANE planner, there was like a bunch of questions and we told, we have to know more detail about the individual. Your metabolism changes radically as you age, right? Let's think about it this way. When people are born, like, obviously very, very few sex hormones, right? So when you look at an 8-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy, they don't look that different. Why? Well, because their hormonal makeup isn't that different. Now that changes, of course, right? That's what we call puberty. At puberty, the visual appearance of males and females goes like this. Why? Because their hormone levels are going like this. Now, as we go through life, obviously our hormone levels change, they peak, they fall. And, after we hit 40, or 50, men go through something called andropause. Women go through something called menopause, and the level of sex hormones changes. Now, the point of that is not to say that once you hit a certain age, progress is not possible. It's absolutely not to say that. It's only to say that we need to give ourselves permission that it's going to take a little bit longer. And I would argue that it is not natural, forget about healthy, for a 65-year-old man or woman to be able to see their abs, right? It might be totally like 15-year-old guy sees his abs, that's totally fine, right? Because that is a normal, healthy weight for that age. But I think we would agree that what is normal and natural and healthy as we mature changes, right? So just like the level of muscle that a male will maintain is going to, that is natural for a male to maintain, will go down over time. We become like our bodies, it's just a fact based on hormonal changes, become more inclined to store fat and less inclined to hold on to muscle as we get older. Doesn't mean we can't make progress. We can make progress, but what we need to do is we need to give ourselves permission to understand that wild success for a 65-year-old woman looks very different. And I use looks intentionally, looks very different from wild success for a 25-year-old woman. And I hope that everyone who's on this call and everyone who's watching this, does not see that as bad news, because you know what? Brilliant and amazing at 65 is not the same as brilliant and amazing at 25, and it shouldn't be, right? We all know people who, seeing a 65-year-old who's dressed like they're 23 is not amazing, is not beautiful, and is not attractive. I would argue that living an optimal, sane, and eccentric lifestyle and enjoying the best version of yourself at 65 is not going to look like a 25-year-old, but it shouldn't. And anyone who's worth a dime will know that and will appreciate that and will love you even more for manifesting that, right? I hope and I pray that I get the opportunity to grow old with my amazing wife, Angela, and that when she's 65, she looks like a radiant 65-year-old. And that, anyway, I hope this is making sense, but I think, our goals, just like if we had a goal for our 8-year-old son to become stronger, to be better at Pee Wee football, we're going to have very different goals for an 8-year-old child to build muscle than we would for an 18-year-old man to build muscle. And that's not sad. It's just that's an 8-year-old versus 18-year-old. That's different. So please throw away the nonsense magazines, throw away this toxic garbage that makes us all feel like we need to fit into this little box, which, maybe at one point in time in our lives, that box was appropriate, but it's just not appropriate now. Especially, if you're, I'm the worst at this, right? So we see someone who's they've got a family, they've got all these responsibilities, they've got familial responsibilities, they've got professional responsibilities. They're just crushing it in terms of things that actually matter, right? Things that people will remember you for when your time on this earth is done. No one's going to be at your eulogy, Sally had such great abs. That's what I remember her for, right? They're going to be Sally was an amazing person who made the world a better place and enhanced the lives of everyone she interacted with. Those things, if you've got those dialed in, no, there's going to be someone out there who spends all their time weighing their food and spending 3 hours per day in a gym, and that's fine. And if that's how they want to spend their lives, yes. And you know what? For trading everything else in their lives for that, they can be 65 and have a 6-pack. But you know what? You're going to be 65 and you're going to be at a healthy, optimal weight. You're going to look beautiful. You're going to feel beautiful, and you're going to rock the things in life that actually matter. And that's what we call nutritional serenity. And that's what we're after here. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to kind of step off my soapbox a little bit, but I do hope that helps. All right, so let me go back to get and drink a water here real quick. And then let me just kind of jump back over here to our written in questions, and then I will take a peek at the chat here real quick. All right, so question here around, I love the concept of process goals versus results goals. 10 points for paying attention to the last session. I think it's a really helpful way to achieve progress, not perfection. Another 10 points for using another one of our terms, and to stay encouraged to get better day after day, and in the end, meet your goals too. I would love to hear another example of a sane spin on traditional diet principles or behaviors that promotes sticking to a program and creating new habits, but in a much healthier way. A sane spin on traditional principles. Gotcha. Okay. So for example, the sane spin on goals is to take the more sane approach, which is to focus on that which you can control, which is the process, the actions you take, not to focus on the goals. Or for example, like if you want to become a better free throw shooter in basketball, you can control how much time you spend practicing. You might not be able to control how your muscle memory adapts to that practice, because you can't control your muscle memory. Same thing sometimes applies with other aspects of our body, especially our waistline, things like that. Okay, put me on the spot. This is always putting me on the spot, but that's good. So what's another example of that? I think we touched on this earlier, but this is actually a really important one. And that's in the traditional model, precision is super important. Actually, this is a really important distinction, right? When you count calories, by definition, every single calorie counts. And I think that's why we always see so many questions about like, well, what's this serving size? And is this 2 servings or 1 serving? Or what are the servings here? And those are great questions, and I totally understand them. But what those questions are, is they're a manifestation of the belief that your body is dumb, for lack of better terms. And for example, like if you overate 10 calories per day for a year, that you would gain a pound per year. And if you then did that for 50 years, you would gain 50 pounds, all because your caloric balance wasn't precisely managed down to the calorie. That sounds ridiculous, but pick up any popular health magazine and it'll be like, just by chewing gum for 3 hours per day, you'll burn 17 more calories, which by the end of the year will mean you lose 7 pounds. And that's not how the body works. We know the body's a homeostatic system. So it's going to respond to more calories in with more calories out, and more calories out to more calories in, to a point. So what is the sane approach here? The sane approach is not to be focused on precision, not to be focused on the micro. The sane approach is to be focused on the macro. Let me give you the perfect example. Calorie counting, like how many exact calories did you burn and how many exact calories did you eat? The sane approach is answer 3 questions for me. And this is just specific to food. Did you eat double-digit servings of vegetables today? Well, actually, I'm gonna make it simple. One question. Today, is the volume of food you consumed in this order? The highest volume of food I ate was vegetables. The second highest volume of food I ate was nutrient-dense protein. And then the third highest volume of food I ate was whole food fats and low fructose fruits. And anything else, if I ate it at all, I ate it in much smaller size quantities than any of that stuff. Like if you do non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, whole food fats in that order every time you eat, you will achieve radically better success than you ever would by precisely counting calories, and you will avoid the neurotic eating disorders that come along with trying to be perfect, which is what calorie counting is saying, right? It's demonizing food. It's saying food is bad. Food is to be avoided. It's saying your body is stupid. And if you don't precisely manage this, it's going to go bonkers, which for so many reasons is ridiculous, right? Like You don't measure how much vitamin C you eat per day and how much vitamin C you excrete out in your urine or in your sweat, but somehow your body maintains adequate levels of vitamin C when you eat healthy, normal foods, right? How does that work? Okay, it's because your brain is a really smart thing. So the calorie counting model makes it seem like it's precise, and then it also makes you neurotic because it tells you to pursue perfection and precision. And then it makes you crazy because you're like, I cut 37 calories and I didn't lose 25 pounds in 25 days. So that's a SANE example of where the traditional approach is about precision. The SANE approach is about focusing on getting the big things right. And like, I literally don't even want you to personally, until you have like rocked the vegetables, protein, and fats, thinking about like, is xylitol or erythritol better? Doesn't matter. Like, if your car is burning in your driveway, it doesn't matter if the windshield's dirty. Like, the car's on fire. So let's put the car out first. Whereas the calorie counting approach is just like, no, it all needs to be taken care of right away. It has to be precise and perfect. Nonsense. So anyway, that's the SANE approach to that question. All right. So let's see what we got here. You know, lots of good comments coming in here. Oh, and Kate actually had a good suggestion here for the popcorn. And so this is not something that I would recommend you just like eat every single day, but until we get our SANE alternative ready for you. Again, I'm not saying this is sane. I'm saying this is possibly a saner option than popcorn. Soy nuts. Soy, obviously, especially for men, might not be the best thing in the world, but soy nuts, or there are things like you could do toasted legumes, right? So corn is a starch, right? So on the SANE spectrum, legumes are saner than starch. So, eat it with something else, eat it with vegetables, proteins, fats in that order. But there's some really neat snack options for legumes that are toasted and crunchy, which are also nice. There's also some options there on the Amazon link I provided earlier in terms of SANE crunchy things. I mean, and then there's like kale chips, which are incredible, like super SANE. But if you try to buy them, it's like $5 for a bag that's this big. So make them yourself if at all possible. And actually that might be a really neat thing to be able to do, is to take those really robust vegetables, leaf vegetables, kale, collard greens, things like that, and make chips out of those. A lot of great recipes are available for that. So I think that would be helpful. All right. Jonathan, not knowing. All right. So Kitty's asking a good question here. Jonathan, she may need someone to do that for her, possibly not knowing if she can navigate the support group. I think maybe that is a response, which I appreciate, to the question earlier about the individual who, yeah. So if you don't know how to use a support group, or you're not comfortable using the support group, please shoot us an email. We've got a how-to video that's going to show you exactly how to do it. I mean, honestly, if you were able to attend the masterclass and are able to fill out the survey here, you can use the support group, right? If you were able to submit a question here, I know, if you're 73, that just means that you've had 73 years to crush it and to learn a lot, right? So you are a smart, the fact that you are doing what you're doing right now, you are every single day doing things that are way harder than using the support group. So if there's any challenges with that, shoot us an email. We'll help you with it, but I promise you it's super, super easy to use. Oh yeah, Fran. And Fran has a rockin', sorry, changing topics. Fran's got a rockin' recipe for homemade beef jerky in the support group. So that is obviously awesome. Then Kitty again, she's saying, thanks, Jonathan. I surely don't expect to look like my 11-year-old. Obviously. Yes, that is awesome. I love that. That is great. Michelle's asking, where do I find the live coaching recordings? So I will send you a link probably tonight, if not tonight, early tomorrow morning. And that link will have just where you can see all the recordings. But general rule of thumb, not general rule of thumb, the answer, general rule of thumb, is if you log into your Ignite program and you go down to the bottom in the footer, you'll see a section called Stay Motivated. That's where they are. So you're going to find them in that section called Stay motivated. All right, so good stuff here. Let me just do, I've got a couple really quick questions here that were written in, so I want to just hammer these out real quick if you don't mind. There's 3 of them. We do it back to back. 1, 2, 3. I'm afraid I will gain weight eating all of the suggested portions. Important, great question. So if you eat the suggested portions, if you eat 12 servings of vegetables, 3 to 6 servings of nutrient-dense protein, and 3 to 6 or 2 to 6, depending on where you're at, servings of whole food fats, you will not gain weight. It would actually be somewhat impossible for you to gain weight if you ate them in that proportion. Specifically, if you focused on the vegetables first, then the proteins, and then less of the fats because you were already full. The reason for that is those foods are so nutrient dense and they're so satisfying. Like, just try it. Just literally try to eat 12 servings of vegetables and 4 servings of nutrient dense protein. And first of all, that in and of itself, because those are not energy rich, those are nutrient rich, that in and of itself could not possibly provide you with enough calories to gain weight. Because calories exist. And if we overconsume them chronically, we will gain weight, right? The calorie myth isn't that calories don't exist. It's that focusing on calories rather than the quality of what we're eating, that's a myth. That does not work. And it leads to craziness, and it leads to the insanity, lowercase and uppercase. But I promise you that if you focus on in the order, now if you're just like doing the sort of internet, what's common on the internet, which is people take bits and pieces of different lifestyles. So they're like, I'm going to add 700 calories of butter to my coffee. And then I read in Time magazine that fat isn't so bad for me. So I'm going to eat like 6 strips of bacon, and I'm not really going to eat any vegetables. Like, yeah, that's a low carb, healthy, you're eating healthy fats, but yeah, you will gain weight because that's the calorie to nutrient ratio is off there. But if you do SANE, non-starchy vegetables, nutrient dense protein, whole food fats in that order, and then like if you're too full, a lot of people are just too full. I promise you, it is physically impossible for you to gain weight. And if you are, please let us know exactly what you are eating in the support group, and we will help to troubleshoot. Absolutely. Vegetarian protein recipes, options, measuring portions. I hope I answered that for you. If I didn't, please post it in the chat box. What impact does age have on this plan? Boom, we already covered that one too. So that is good stuff. All right, so let's go back to the chat here. Oh, and Sherry, thank you. Sherry says, great answer for one of my previous answers. And this is coming from a 62-year-old woman. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, everyone. People are being these are always very nice calls, but it's exceptionally nice today. And I've actually had a very hard week so far. So it is refreshing to have all the wonderful support here. So that's why it's you guys support me as much as I'm supporting you, because you're showing love and you're having your amazing success. So I really appreciate that. Like, I honestly do. That's why I like to have these at the end of the day, because it's like the perfect way to close the day.